Hello, today I'm going to show you how to read data from a file using the scanner class. So I have NetBeans open and I'm going to create a new project just like I normally do. So new Java application, hit next. I'm going to call this data file read example and I'm going to store it directly on my desktop. Okay, it doesn't really matter where you put it, but it is really important for a data file program that you know where your project is saved. So I'm going to finish that, create it. Here's our code. Okay, so before I actually write the code to read in a data file, it's important that I know the structure of the data that I'll be reading. So there are a couple different ways we can get the data file. It may be provided to us through an email or a website. It may have been generated by another program. Or we can create it ourselves at this point. In order to create it ourselves, we can do that pretty easily within NetBeans. So I'm going to right-click on my package up here, and I'm going to make a new empty file. You may have to go down to the other and choose empty file, but mine's up at the top because I've made some before. So the name doesn't really matter. I'm going to call mine data, and I'm going to give it a file extension of .txt. That tells my operating system that it's a text file and should be opened with some sort of text editor. So we'll finish it. The file extension doesn't really matter for this problem as long as we type it in the same later when we're opening our file path. So in my data file, I'm going to just create it now. The problem we're going to solve is we are going to read some names and some ages from a data file. And what we're going to do is convert the age of the user, which I'm putting in here in years, into days. So we're going to say how many days old each of these people are. And just to make things a little bit easier, I'm going to put each piece of data on a new line. Your data files won't always be like this, but this just makes it a little bit easier to handle the different pieces of data. Let's do one more. Okay, now you'll notice here that I have 8 lines of text that I've typed in, but there's actually a 9th line down here. So I'm going to hit delete so that that 9th line is gone. So all I have in my data file are these 8 lines of text. All right, so now we'll go ahead and write the code that will read this data in. Just to save a little bit of time, I'm going to get rid of these comments here. Okay, so within the main, what we're going to do is try to open a connection to our file. Okay, right now it's yelling at me because I haven't finished the statement. So we're going to use a couple of classes here. The first one is the file class. So I'm going to declare a file and I'm going to set it equal to a new file, like this. And in order to actually use the file class, I do need to import it. So up above the class line, I'm going to import java.io. Oops, not java.app, java.io.file. There we go. So now I can use my file class. So with my file, I need to tell Java the location of the file that I'm trying to open. So I need to put the address of my data.txt. So within NetBeans, what I can do for that is actually just build that file path starting from my source packages. So at this point, it's kind of important that you understand how your operating system stores files within a folder structure. So I'm just going to go back to Windows Explorer here. Here's my NetBeans project that I've created. It's called Data File Read Example. If I open this up, this is my NetBeans project structure. There's a couple different folders. Here's my SRC folder. This is my source folder. If I open that up, I'll see that there's another folder inside called Data File Read Example. This is the package that NetBeans automatically created for me when it made my project. Within this package, I have my Java source code and my data.txt file. So this is actually the data file that we created within NetBeans. So I need to give NetBeans the path to that data file starting from this SRC folder. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to type src because that was the name of the folder. So starting here, src. Okay, and then we're going to go down one folder in our file structure, and it's called data file read example. So to go down in our file path here, in Windows we can do 2 backslashes. And it's called data file read example. And then within that folder, if I go down one level, here's the actual file that I want to open. So I'm going to type exactly data.txt into this file path. So down one, data.txt. Okay, I want you to understand how this works, because if you try to read the file and our program can't find it, well, you need to go and look and see, is the file actually there? That's one of the common problems that happen when we're working with data files. Okay, so we made a file. So we're going to try to open that file. If that operation is not successful, we need to catch the resulting exception. Okay, so in this case, our exception is called file not found exception. And I'm just going to call it E. Again, that's something that we're going to need to import. So it's also in the IO package, so we're going to import java.io. And it was called file not found exception. There it is. Okay. Now, if this exception does happen, what we need to do is actually print out that error. Because if we don't print it out, then we'll have no idea that an error did occur. So we're going to try to open the file, and then once we have this connection to the file, then what we want to do is use another class called scanner to actually go into the file and grab the contents for it. Grab those contents of the file for us and bring it back into our program. So again, we need to import scanner. So I'm going to use the hint from NetBeans, java.util.scanner. There we go. Okay, so now we're kind of set up. We can get the connection to our file. So if I were to run this, ideally, nothing happens and we get build successful. If I made a mistake in my file path, like let's say I spelled read wrong or made a typo, when I run this, I get my error printed out. Okay, so for our application, we're going to assume that we don't know how many records are in this file. Okay, so we're going to loop while my scanner has a next line in it. So what we would expect is that this while loop will actually run until each item in the file has been read in, and then it gets down to like line 9 that doesn't exist, and then the loop should stop. So at this point, we're going to need to declare some variables to actually help us solve the problem. So I'm going to declare a string name and a string age, sh, and I'm going to declare an int age and an age days variable. I'm also going to declare one more string called output, and this is where I'm going to build my output string in. So I'm going to try to build a chart that says name and then age in days. Okay, so within my while loop here, what I want to do is read in the first item. So back to my data file, because we need to understand the structure of this. So this data file is made up of 4 records. Okay, each record is a complete entry about one topic. So the first record has a name and an age. Those are the fields of our data file. So our data file has a name field, and it has an age field. Some data files may have more fields, or they may have less. So we have a variable declared for our name field and a variable for the age field. So the first thing we'll do is read in that name. So name equals scanner dot next line. So the first time this runs, it will read Brad from the data file, and it will store that in name. Okay, then I'm going to read in the age. So the next line method returns whatever was in the data file as a string. So then I need, in this case, to parse it to an integer. Okay, then I'm actually going to do a little calculation with it. So age days is equal to age times 365. And then I'll add that record to my output. Output plus equals name, and tab, and the age in days, and a new line. So this while loop will run one time for each record in the data file, and each time it runs, it will read in every field in the record. In this case, there are 2 fields, but if there were 10 fields in each record, it would read in all 10 at this point. Finally, once this try catch is finished, I should have all of my output built into my output string. So I'll go ahead and run this now, and we'll see that I have a nice list of the names, and I've calculated the age and days for each of the people in the data file. Okay, so that's how we read in data from a file using the scanner class and the file class. There are other methods to do it. This is one that I found. I kind of like it because it's fairly straightforward.